Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Professor Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we're getting one of those fun halfway car podcasts and so on, and trying to make it all work on the little screen.
Oh, yeah. It also looks kind of like, once again, it always feels like, because like I said, my room is like covered in like figures and shit. So it literally looks like a dad calling into his son. And I'm like, oh, mom's got a new boyfriend. Like, oh, that's great, son. That's great, son. You know? Like, he's really cool.
Yeah,
he makes a lot of money.
Yeah, like, look what he's bought me. He got me this, and he got me that, and a new video game system, and a big screen TV, and a ray gun.
Yeah. This isn't me trying to be like, I'm the rich kid, you're in the fucking car. I'm not trying to do that at all. But I'm just saying the dynamic of that way. If people watching the video version, that's how it probably looks right now.
Yeah, that's how I feel in the CarCast version of it all. But at the same time, it's cool that you are able to do stuff like this and so on. Even if you have to fight with the sort of technology to get it all dialed in and ready to go. But yeah, kind of back and
half 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah, exactly, totally. That's the only way you can kind of look at it and so on like that. And even speaking of this, I guess not exactly 2001-y, but I went to go visit Cisco down in actually ironically on like, Hispanic, Heritage Day. Just timed out that perfectly. Oh, go visit your Mexican friend on that day.
You're just like, hey, Cisco, I would have come visit you sooner, but there's a holiday for this. Right?
So, it would be wrong to go to anybody else's house today, so we'll come on down there and whatnot. But just happened to time out that was the day that we chose to go down to the Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights, which was pretty darn awesome.
Oh, that's awesome. Do they have like, because that's the thing about those, like I've never been there when they have those. Actually, the one time I've been to Universal Studios within recent years was the time when we all went, which was like, I think a year or 2 years ago by now. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't near Halloween, but I know that like Universal goes all out with their Halloween walkthroughs, and with like they make I know that I've heard they made haunted houses off movies you wouldn't expect, and they've always usually been pretty cool. Like I heard one year they had an Evil Dead haunted house kind of walkthrough.
Yeah, well, this year they had an Evil Dead one, but it was for that new Evil Dead movie. So I guess if you saw the movie, it probably made more sense. But still interesting, still cool stuff in there, good violence and so on like that. But yeah, they had like 8 haunted house walkthroughs spread throughout the park that you could go to, all with like high quality in them, and really cool designs, and very good gore scenes and so on like that. And yeah, just let's see, it's like one was based off Chucky, which was actually really cool. Probably had some of the best death scenes in there. They had the Evil Dead for the new movie. They had the new Exorcist movie one. They had a Last of Us. But I think since it was based off the TV show, it felt a little bit different than the game.
They had a Last of Us one? Huh.
Yeah, they had a Last of Us one, which it still had some cool stuff in it. Like you got the clickers and the different monsters and the big fat guys. I can't remember what they are. I always used to say, like, whenever you see them in the game, because they'd pop up and be like, "Daddy Poo Poo, coming for you," and then you'd blow them away. I don't know why. It makes it less scary when I make a funny name for them when I'm shooting things. No, Last of Us.
Last of Us or Left 4 Dead? Wait, do those?
Now, Left 4 Dead does have fat guys in it too, because they got the blobs in there.
Oh, I'm mixing.
But back in the day when it was okay to shoot fat people.
Back when there was more freedom, goddammit. Well,
God damn it. That's what happened. They took that away from us. It used to be an American tradition to shoot fat people. And they explode everywhere. And if you got caught in the radius of it, well, guess what? You're getting some of that fat juice on you, and you're going to be infected just like them.
Okay, let's go to McDonald's now.
God damn, I got to celebrate my Left 4 Dead victory. But you died. You didn't even make it to the helicopter. Oh, shit. We made it as a team. That's all that matters, right?
Is it like, God, that's cool they had a Last of Us one. Well, I mean, even like the show even had more of an emphasis on people more than zombies. So I'm guessing they still made it feel kind of more of like a haunted house. It wasn't, I guess, a lot of jump scares and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was more like a haunted house. I mean, and you got a bunch of people playing Joel and Ellie and so on. And the part where Joel was trying to start this generator, so I got to yell at him like it was at wrestling and heckling him, like, start that generator! Damn it, Joel, start that generator! And that the guy's like, Jesus, bet you every third person comes in and yells that at me.
There has to be occasionally the person who just throws something at him and just like, hey, it's like the last shift or second to last shift. Like, I'm gonna fuck, I don't give a shit. Like, oh, this is really immersive.
Well, it's funny because they have these like token teenage security guards like around every corner, all dressed in black, which I will say is actually scarier than anything else in the entire thing. I don't know what it is. There's the movie attendant looking people just shoved in the corners, like that throws you off. You're like, oh, whoa, well, Billy's over here. He's on his cell phone. Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know why that would scare me more than any of the other actual scares and pop outs and all that stuff. It's just the random like security guard kids hanging out.
I just think that's funny, the idea of like, okay, we got some like security guards in the haunted house for what? Well, in case someone wants to start shit with Leatherface, So it's just like, excuse me, sir, you need to leave Leatherface alone. Like, it's gonna like, all right, someone's got to be there to say it, but you got just like it probably breaks the immersion a little bit. You have the scene playing out in front of you. It's kind of like a Gallagher show, fake blood's going everywhere or whatever, and then there's like, some prepubescent, like, 15-year-old, like with his arms crossed in the corner, just making sure no one reaches out and like tries to like pull the mask off or some shit,
Yeah, that's I mean, I just feel like the only thing they probably can do is call the real security in, because they literally herd you into these things like cattle almost. It's just like, it's like a wave. It's not like, if you go to like a local haunted house, you go like in groups, like here's, the 4 or 6 of us are going in at a time to each room. This one's just like, go, line, go. So like, sometimes it's like, if you're the first person going in, then it's kind of a little bit scary, but a lot of times you're like kind of in the line. So you see the scares coming. It already got the girls in front of us. Oh, we know what to do. And plus there is that thing to it. I don't think people put their effort into like older men to try to scare them as much as like young girls and so on.
just the cattle prod, just go, just fucking move. We got to get these numbers going,
Yeah, like this guy standing with the clicker going the whole time,
I think that, I mean, they probably wouldn't do it because it probably would like make people challenge it more, become a TikTok challenge or something. But if they did actually have like somebody does start shit, rather than being just kind of like a security guard, like, all right, man, we got to go take a walk. It's going to be like someone in a clicker suit or someone dressed like a xenomorph just grabs them. All right, you want to fuck around, motherfucker? And just like pull them into the other room,
Yeah, exactly. It could be something just like that, It could get dangerous and so on. There's so many like little rooms and paths that you could almost just like literally like pull someone through, and God knows where you would end up at.
I didn't hear anything about it being good, but there was like, it sounded like an interesting concept. It was a horror movie. I think it was a Blumhouse movie. So, and sometimes you get those Blumhouse movies that just like come out and just like rock the world for like a few years, like franchises, and then you get those ones that like no one ever hears about again.
It
was like a movie about
70% of them.
Well, there's the ones that really like, there's the ones that really like stand. Like I don't know if they've really. No, that's A24. I'm thinking that A24 has done a lot of big horror movies lately. But anyway, maybe Blumhouse has kind of fallen off a little bit. But regardless, anyway, there was one where it was like a theme park, and it was like a horror focused theme park, and they had people running around pretending to be murderers and chasing people like but then surprise, there actually is a murderer in there, and they're being stalked by them, and it's kind of hard to convince people that there's actual murder coming after them and all that kind of stuff. Like they're actually living, and they don't really know who's really a slasher, who's just a character, basically. Like, that sounds like an interesting concept, but I never heard about anything of the movie after I saw the trailers, so who knows.
Yeah, actually does sound kind of that is a smart one, because if you do think about it, you just think about how much actual death could you sort of hide during like a haunted house kind of thing, that like when who's going to be able to separate the fake death from the real death in the moment?
There is actually a my wife and I went to, around Halloween last year, we went to a theme park where the theme park was kind of like whatever, but It's called Wallopy of all places. It's not actually. It's kind of like a Six Flags. Apparently, at some point in time, Six Flags bought it, and then it crashed and burned, and it became Wallopy again or whatever. But just a European chain of theme parks, and in Halloween they do a couple of those walk through haunted houses, and you could totally tell like no one's going to pay attention, so put whatever unofficial licensed stuff through here. So you basically walk through this thing, and like you can kind of tell they're just like, it was people who knew the gist of it but didn't really know entirely what it was. Like they fused Psycho and Scream into the same thing. You know, they fused Chainsaw Massacre with Jason. Yeah, they're getting it mixed up. Like it was someone with a Jason mask with a chainsaw. You know what I mean? So
well, that technically would be like Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
I guess you could, but the thing is, there's some stuff they got down. Like you could tell, like they did their research. But then there's other ones like it was all obviously probably not like official and all that. But they even had like some of the music playing from like different movies and all that. So like, okay, I don't think Warner Brothers can reach this far over here. So I think we're okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Once you're across in Europe, it's hard.
I was gonna say, but like you said, they had the kind of constant line going. So once you're like have like a group of like 17-year-old girls in front of you, like in front of everything, like okay, scare's coming. Thanks girls, thanks for letting us know. Cool.
Yeah. No, that definitely dilutes the scares a lot. Is if there's somebody else in front of you. There was one time where I was like the one leading the line. I'm like, oh, now this is getting kind of scary. The second that I'm the first one going through and I have no idea what's going to happen, and I know I'm probably going to get scared more by that little kid standing there with the lightsaber, but more than anything else. But still, they did add to it. And also, speaking of other ones, they had one that was actually kind of cool. They had. In Nope, when you go to like that cowboy town, they had the entire cowboy town you could walk through there.
Oh, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, because it was like the official set of it. It was Universal.
It was the official set of it.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome, actually. Yeah. Well, Nope was one of my favorite movies that came out last year, so that would have been cool to check out. But yeah. Well, sounds like you guys had a good time. Did you actually, since you were there, did you have a chance to go to the Mario Brothers section?
We did. We made it in there to go see. So we went to Nintendo Land and everything like that, which is kind of funny because like it's called Nintendo Land, but it's like it all came together. And I don't know why I never put two and two. It's like it's all 100% Mario. There's not a single thing of Link, Metroid, F-Zero, even really Donkey Kong. I mean, he is there in the Mario Kart in this, but like not like his world type stuff at all. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This goes to show that movie and this Universal thing has probably been planned out way longer than anybody would have thought. I mean, like 10 plus years in advance, because that park is 100% designed for the timing of that movie and just to really sell a crap ton of merchandise just right then and there. Like that's 100% what it is.
Now, here's the thing. I do want to check that out eventually, but I got a feeling when I go, I'm going to feel more of like, okay, let's try and do this in like reasonable time. There's a thing when you're a kid, like, oh, wow, it's like I'm actually in the Mushroom Kingdom. And then you get there, oh, fuck, look at this line. $7 for a hot dog shaped like Yoshi? Get fucked. Like, was it actually pretty cool, or was it like, okay, all right, or was it kind of somewhere in the middle?
No, actually, the land is still pretty neat because it's all just larger than life, literally Mushroom Kingdom. The statues, all like the animatronics, they're all really cool. You get into the Bowser's Fury kart ride, whatever, and the path walking through. That's like one of the best things that like I feel Universal's done, and Disneyland too in the last while, is that they make the lines almost like an exhibit in itself. So at least you're not just bored looking at each other, But that's the other thing is I think as a Nintendo fan, you're like, man, it's like you have the space for this. And it's not like it would be asking anything out of the question to throw. I mean, you got this gift shop here. Why don't you just throw a couple, Legend of Zelda stuff in here too? I mean, it's not like, is that really taking up real estate space?
I know the minute they talked about Nintendo Land popping up in Universal Studios, we made like a big long joke about what if it just became this lawless like warlord zone or whatever, you know. But really, at the end of the day, I actually assumed what would have like I didn't think it would be as elaborate as it is. What I honestly thought it would have is kind of like, and this isn't me trying to lowball it. Like you just kind of go down to this section, and there's like a there's like a Mario ride and some Mario gift shops, and maybe there's like a Mario ride, maybe another ride of another character, and then just look, oh, there's like statues and pop-ups of other characters, and those characters are in like a gift shop type of thing, and like you know, and like it would the overall would have like the aesthetic of like a like Wii menu, you know what I mean? But with the character icons around everywhere. I thought it would be something kind of like that. But then I saw how elaborate they went with it. I was like, oh shit, you guys went all out. But I think the reason they probably called Nintendo Land is for the potential of it possibly becoming more than that. Like, because the one in Japan is going to have a Donkey Kong extension beneath it, where it's all like the Kong Islands and all that. So maybe this one's going to do the same. But I guess time will tell. I mean, before you go to Donkey Kong, I guess that kind of leads more into Mario, and they're talking about a Donkey Kong movie after the Mario movie, which maybe, you know. But you think they go to Zelda before. You think Zelda or Pokemon will be the next thing before, like, Donkey Kong. We're wrong. People like Donkey Kong, they like Donkey Kong Country, but you think, like, Pokemon or Zelda, but then again, maybe Pokemon's, it's also kind of like the Pixar of Nintendo, so maybe they can't fully do that.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird one why there isn't that mix match and you know and so on in there. And I think that there's the Donkey Kong ride I think opened up at Universal Studios Florida, so I think that actually exists there already. I almost want to say I heard someone say that when I was in line or something like that. Universal Studios Florida, they have the Donkey Kong ride. Yeah.
Oh, they do already. Shit.
Yeah.
I'll say sometimes there is that thing about because go ahead, I cut you off. Sorry, delay.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, no. So it's just that. It's just, but yeah, it is weird not to have any Pokemon stuff. Not to have. It's just all Mario alone. I'm not saying there's anything like wrong with that, but it just feels like you already have it set up so nicely. Just that, like, why not have a bunch more of this merchandise here? I mean, literally the whole parks, people are walking around left and right with all kinds of like stuff there. You know, like I feel like that's kind of the game plan is that to get everybody to spend about $50 at Nintendo Land, and if every customer can do that, then you're doing pretty good.
Well, there is that thing about sometimes you go to like a theme park and you like get caught up in the moment. Like, you know what? Maybe I will buy this. Maybe I will buy that. And you kind of think about, you can get Mario plushies anywhere. You can get like Yoshi or Toad plushies. But you think, well, how about I get something specifically Nintendo Land? Like, oh, am I really gonna drink out of this giant ass thermos all the time? Am I really gonna like? So then that kind of starts to break down. Like, but who knows? Maybe when you're there, you can find the right thing. I remember getting a cool Jurassic Park mug after the ride, but beyond that, a lot of the times, this shit when you actually get all amped for it, and you look at the price, like, fuck that. Like I remember, I'll say going to, if you talk about the rides being kind of like an exhibit itself. I happened to be in Disneyland a little before I made the move, and I went with my mom. We were just there just for a day, and we went to that Star Wars ride, the big long Rebel something. I don't know. It was like the biggest ride there, and the line is long. Like, fuck it, let's just do it. And that thing keeps your hopes up. That because it knows it's a long line, but it keeps on making your hopes up. So you're walking, there's a lot of nothing, and you're kind of like in these outskirt kind of cave type things. So they have like alien animal noises around, like, okay, whatever. And you gotta go around a corner and you see like a Star Wars crate of something, like, oh cool, that must be where you're boarding for the ride. And you go around there, like, oh no, but there's another corner over there with more shit. And around every time you're getting closer to a corner, they just add a little bit more shit. Like, okay, that is a closet of like laser guns hanging, and there's like, like a robot like turning and moving around. Like, okay, this has to be, and it keeps you and tricks you like that for like 30 or 40 minutes. It's able to trick you that many times because every time you come around a corner, they add just more and more and more. And then by the time you think you're getting onto it, like, okay, cool. I'm like, all right, guys, this way. And granted, it was immersive. We're like, okay, guys, so here's what's going to happen. We're going on this spaceship and we're getting out of here because the Imperials or whatever attacking us. Like, all right, cool. So you get on the spaceship, it's shaking you around. Out the windows are like screens. Okay, cool. You're like, all right, now the Imperials came in. Like, now we're taking over. Go, like exit the ship right now. You're inside like an Imperial Star Destroyer. Like, oh, this is cool. Stay in line over here. Fuck. So, and they're the people in line, the people guarding the lines are like Imperial guards and Imperial troopers, and they're all just being like dicks, like, hey, stand back. Like, if you had a bad day, that's where you put you. Like, dude, I've had a really rough day. I need to yell at some customers. Let me dress as a stormtrooper and, like, possibly like knock someone's jaw, like smash in the side of the face with the butt of my gun or something, and like, so for then like another 10 minutes. You're inside a line, inside of the fucking Star Destroyer. But then they did this whole breakout thing, and I'll be honest, it was worth it. It was immersive. But it was just kind of like, God, we waited in the line just to wait in another line. Holy shit, when's the fucking ride actually going to start?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, the nice thing at Universal Studios is me and Cisco both went like Captain Republican and got the VIP passes. So we'd be like, executive line, yes, oh, here we are. See you kids later. It's on the way. It's a 5-minute wait. 2-hour wait for you guys, but that's the peasants line. We have the VIP passes here. Oh, yes. so, and I kid you not, that was
a wheelchair on the way in.
Cisco got ran over by a lady in a wheelchair, which. Kind of hilarious. Like, this old lady came up on like a rascal, and like it's almost like she couldn't figure out how to turn the throttle off, and so she was like, like at all of 3 miles per hour. It was like running Cisco over, and Cisco just kind of like holding her back, like whatever, like almost like it was like some small dog coming at him. And this dude comes like, "Are you okay, man? Are you okay? Like are you injured?" Cisco's like, No, I'm fine. Are you sure? Are you sure? Like this dude thought he was legitimately gonna get sued or something like that.
Like it was the lady's handler or whatever.
I think so. He was on a rascal as well too, so I don't know if that's like the best way to start saying it. It was like the Team Rascal out there. They're like the only other people that were older than us here at the park. And like the guy's like, I have money. Are you okay? Like I can pay for medical bills. It's like, dude, no. Like, don't worry, we're not going to sue you.
That my
my shit. Spraying some ketchup down. Oh look, it's bleeding everywhere.
Oh Jesus! Like he turns to her like, "You stupid bitch! I told you not to have that many like dino margaritas at the Jurassic Park bar."
Yeah, exactly. One of those ones like that.
It's 2017 all over again, Ethel. God damn it!
That's how you got into this rascal mess.
She just like angrily, just like flooring it, just eyeing Cisco like oh shit, she's out for blood now.
Yeah, exactly. But no, like having those VIP passes, like I mean, that was like the thing. Was like you pay a little bit extra, but like it's so worth it. Like why you would never be able to ride everything or see all the attractions on that Halloween, night because it was so crazy and so crowded. If you didn't have those, the longest line we waited was the Chucky one. We probably waited for 15 minutes. That was the longest we ever waited. Most things were 5 minutes or less.
Now is this like classic Chucky or the new digital Chucky?
It might be the new digital Chucky if I had to probably guess. Because I kind of thought about
like an AI. Is he like where he's an AI and he's like a robot, or is it like was he still like doing the I'm gonna kill you all kind of shit?
Oh no, he was doing the I was gonna kill you all. Okay. He was definitely doing.
It's original Chucky then.
So okay, cool. Because I was thinking, like, man, it's been a long time since I've seen Child's Play. It was kind of funny though, because like when you're waiting in line at Chucky's, there's like Chucky little box toys that like circle the entrance, and he has little sayings on every single one of them. And at one point, Chucky's all, "Oh hey, look at the fucking VIP people thinking they're so special because they paid more to skip the line. You son of a bitch, come inside. I got something present for you," or something like that.
They actually swear in it.
He did, yeah. Like it was one of those ones you think about. You're like, man, this is actually. The entire park's kind of definitely like beyond. It's like NC-17 if you really had to say it. Like it's not rated R. It's literally gone past that because you look at some of the gore and the violence. You're like, you couldn't do this in a movie, to tell you the truth.
Oh well, good to know, man. I feel I'm gonna have to time it right to go to Halloween because I'm not even really a Child's Play or Chucky fan, but like that sounds actually pretty cool. Just kind of going through it. There's sometimes the ones where it'll be like. One year, because I just fell down the YouTube rabbit hole of looking at theme park like YouTube channels, And there's one where there was like somebody who was going through like a killer clowns from outer space one, and like that's one where I'm like, I mean, everyone has the things they're into, but I do not understand how Killer Clowns from Outer Space has as much longevity as it does. How that's still like this big cult thing. Like I don't. Yeah. Maybe I need to watch it again, but I really don't, because it didn't really have the violence. And yeah, there's like 2 or 3 kind of creepy parts, but I mean, I'm like, sometimes there's a thing. It's so cheesy. It's so silly and dumb. It's kind of like just it's good. Like. Sometimes we watching the same fucking thing.
Yeah, that's the same way I feel about kind of like Return of the Living Dead. It's like, I don't know. It's like, and that's the thing is, some people just love that kind of stuff. Like where it's just like, I don't know. It's like I feel like I still need at least somewhat of a good movie to kind of back it up. You know, I mean, at least And I always thought that movie too. I've only seen it once, and I saw it like 20 plus years ago, and I just remember being like, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more. And why is Christopher Titus have such a small part?
Well, it's also kind of like a very thin line of walking kind of like that. I think we talked about before, but walking that intentionally campy and you can kind of get away with it. Like, for instance, like something like Sin City kind of gets away with it, but then something that involves the same creator that does not get away with it at all is like The Spirit, which is just like a real like thick dick to choke down. It's really hard to get through that movie. So it's kind of like sometimes it's trying to go for the same vibe too. So sometimes it's like, I don't know, just that like we're going to be very intentionally cheesy and melodramatic. And then like it can work, but it's very fucking hard.
Yeah, well, you said sometimes you just need a Robert standing next to you to help guide you. Maybe that was, I think, what was missing from The Spirit.
He doesn't even have it all the time. Sometimes some movies he does it like I get it, So
yeah,
like Machete Kills is like, all right, can you just go back to chopping people? Why do we need this guy with split personalities? What the fuck is this? It's like telenovela. I mean, it's probably intentional, but still.
But well, apparently that Killer Clowns thing, Cisco said that was last year actually, and he went to there, and he said it was actually one of the coolest ones. Was that, which I can kind of see. Like I could see like a movie that's just kind of okay, but could actually have a really good like ride or whatever you want to call it, like walkthrough, whorehouse.
Yeah, I can see it too. Then there's one where just like this is one put on by The Weeknd. I'm like, all right, okay. It's like, oh, good for him, I guess.
Yeah, probably the
don't drink what he hands you. I guess that's
I could be careful there. That could be scary. Probably the one that was the coolest that they had there at the whole park was they had one. It was not based off a movie, and that's probably what made it kind of a little bit more interesting. Because about like half of them were movie based, and about the other half were like trying to sell you something. I'd like if it was back in the day, I'm surprised you weren't able to buy the Blu-ray on the way out. It was like 2 steps away from it being like that, But but they had one that was all holiday themed murders. So you got like scary Easter bunnies, you got scary Santa Claus. They had a Thanksgiving murder set, which kind of reminded me of like the Thanksgiving Eli Roth trailer for Grindhouse. But it was really cool. You walked in to like this dining room table. It was all Thanksgiving dinner, and it just had the entire family was just murdered up on the table in like different ways and so on like that. And that was really awesome looking, and just like someone was stabbed up against the wall, and there was just blood and terror all over the place, and someone drowning like in soup and so on. Like they really went to town on it. Sometimes I kind of tell Cisco, I'm like, I almost kind of wish that they weren't kind of shoving you through the line so fast, because I'd like to sit here and like, can I study this for a bit? Because this is pretty cool. I like you only get to see everything for like 10 seconds if you're lucky.
That's pretty badass. Yeah.
But then, and then they also had Scary 4th of July, which I thought was actually where they had like Uncle Sam, like is like a almost looked like Eddie from like Iron Maiden, but just like murdering people and so on like that.
With fireworks and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, yeah, like there's one of those ones. Like at first you're thinking of all the big holidays that you'd think of that, and then it started going into all like almost like, wow, I want to. Yeah, well, where's that horror movie for that holiday?
If you look long enough, I imagine there's got to be like a 4th of July horror movie by now. I'd imagine. I don't know. I mean, well, I know there's one that came out like 10 or 15 years ago, and it's like more of like a dark comedy, but like I think it's like Ronald Reagan running through, like Ronald Reagan going around killing hippies. or something like that. Gotta look that up real quick. 1 second. I want to make sure. Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. I was already watching with Tarantino's book I read like a month ago. It was the cinema speculation one. And the very first movie he talked about in that book was in one called Joe. It stars, what's his name? The dad from Everybody Loves Raymond, and he plays the Frankenstein's monster in Young Frankenstein. What's that dude's name? He's in Taxi Driver as well, too. He's in all kinds of stuff.
Wait,
always looks old. He looks like in 50 years, he still always looks old.
Harvey Keitel?
No, not Harvey Keitel.
He's in Taxi Driver? Or?
He's in Taxi Driver. He plays more of a smaller part in that one. But he's the dad in Everybody Loves Raymond. I feel like that's like his major role in the last while. Whatever. This story was literally one of those ones where when Tarantino was explaining it, he's like, pretty much it's like, Susan Sarandon's very first movie, and she's hanging out with her hippie boyfriend, and her dad doesn't like that. And so he goes over to the house to tell him what's up, and then in the process, he ends up murdering him, and then him and Everybody Loves Raymond's dad, meet at this bar, and he's just a racist and just hates everything and so on like that. So they decide to go hang out and party and then go on a shooting spree of a bunch of hippies. And everybody in the theater was laughing. I was like, dude, I'm sold. I got to see what the hell's going on in this movie.
Okay. I'm suddenly a little less interested in the movie. I'm talking about the movie I'm talking about. It's called The Tripper. And it has... Is this
the Reagan one?
Yeah, the Reagan one. Because it's like... How it says a man's confrontation with a group of hippie ends in bloodshed. Now years later, a group of fun-loving friends arrives for a weekend of drugs, debauchery, and music near the site of the earlier massacre. However, the serial killer, with an obsession with Ronald Reagan, has an axe to grind with the partiers. So he's obsessed. If it was actually supposed to be Ronald Reagan, he just well, Nancy, I just got to go stretch my legs. Keep the fire warm.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah. If that's what the movie was, I'm like, okay, all right, let's see where this fucking goes. But no, it's just it's some asshole obsessed with Ronald Reagan. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that sounds, that kind of loses all interest right there. But yeah. Still, go that theme park, whatever, just all those different variations I thought was just kind of cool to add to it. Another one, I guess, they had Stranger Things one, which is probably the most popular one that they had there. But since I never really watched Stranger Things, it's kind of like when you haven't seen something, you walk through, you're like, that's kind of cool. That's weird. And then you just kind of walk out that was neat, but I have no idea what just happened when I was in there.
It's got to be good for the people who really like it.
I bet people that liked it. I mean, that line was probably 4 hours long if you were a normal citizen.
I'm guessing they probably had the thing with the flower mouth thing pop up a few times. I'm guessing, right?
They probably had something like that. I don't know. Stranger Things is
a monster that had with a flower kind of mouth kind of thing.
Probably. A lot of stuff there is this doesn't make any logical sense. Interesting. Okay. He's well,
strange, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. That is. Yeah, it's cool makeup and all that kind of stuff that they had going on there, but yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it really. What the hell I just saw. There was a bald girl yelling at the sky at one point. I'm like, hey, go for it.
Okay. I just you sound like a dad who walked in and saw 2 episodes from each season that were somewhere in the middle. You're like, I don't fucking get it. So it's in the 80s or some shit. The kids ride their bikes. There's some bald bitch yelling at the moon. Some point there may have been a Russian. I don't know. Kate Bush was playing in the background.
Yeah, that's how it is because it's they only just clip out I guess scenes and here's a scary monster and here's that, so there's no context or story in between to explain anything of what the hell's going on. So unless you have previous knowledge, it's just like the way that the Evil Dead Rise one was. That one was if I didn't see that was Evil Dead on the outside, I would have never even thought that was Evil Dead. I couldn't tell what the hell. I mean, it was interesting stuff and scary. Oh, someone's coming through an elevator. I'm assuming the thing takes place in an apartment building. That's what I sort of learned from the walkthrough. I was like, oh, okay. So new location. It's not a cabin.
I didn't see it, but that one, it's basically from what I put together. This is just an early Halloween episode at the end of the day. So
Yeah, it really is.
It's a prelude into Halloween. So which is fitting because we haven't done a Halloween episode in a long time. But yeah, it was what was I going to say? The new one, which I have not seen, but it's on HBO Max, so I should probably just watch it already, is apparently it's the Book of the Damned or whatever, but in an apartment complex. Like somehow someone gets it and does it in the apartment complex, and all the Evil Dead shit starts to go down. It's apparently really brutal. Like apparently it does not hold back on the kids either. So I'm like, oh, really? Shit.
That's cool because that fourth one, I just didn't care a whole lot for. I was just like, I thought I was going to like it. And my only thing that I will say, I think by not having Ash in there, I almost don't care. It's like making a Friday the 13th movie and being like, oh, well, Jason's not going to be in this one. You'd be like, why am I showing up then? Like, I hate to sort of say it, but like, you know, there's some things where it's like, I feel like I need the main character. There's some things that you can get by without the main character because there's enough like round story to kind of go with it. And there's other interests and so on. But there's some of them where it's just like, if you don't have the main character, it seems kind of like, what are we here for? Now we feel like we're watching a knockoff of it. And it's just not as good.
So here's something about that Halloween, that Evil Dead remake. I went in, I did not go into it with high expectations. So when I walked out of it, I liked it more than I thought it. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I liked it. Like, oh, it caught me off guard. I liked it. You know, it's not Evil Dead 1 through 3, but I liked it. You know, and then I watched it again, and then watching it again and knowing what I know now, I'm like, well, I still like it, but not as much because looking at it, I mean, because everyone in it's pretty fucking stupid in that one. Like everyone's, I mean, there's some stupid people in the other ones, but and everyone always pays for their mistakes, but there's like not many, like, like I guess the thing I liked about it is I'm not like a huge person who's like, look at the fucking gore, but I thought the gore and the violence was creative, and I appreciate that it was almost trying to go back to Evil Dead 1. When I was younger, I actually liked Evil Dead 1 more than Evil Dead 2, but as I get older, I'm kind of leaning more towards Evil Dead 2, in all honesty. But
really?
I still really like the first one. Yeah, as I get older, I don't know why. I think I just appreciate Evil Dead 2 a little more as I get older. But
I definitely have come back around because when I first saw Evil Dead 2, I was like, how do people think this movie's like so great? Like compared to the first one, like it's just a cheap remake. It seems like it's like one of those ones like that didn't really continue a whole lot. And I have come around where I'm like, no, I actually like Evil Dead 2 quite a bit. It's probably my least favorite of the three. I think Army of Darkness is still my favorite, but even though Evil Dead 1 is pretty darn awesome, it's just a straight horror movie. I think Evil Dead 1 is the superior one. Army of Darkness is more of like an awesome action movie at the end of the day. And I think that's got all the great lines. That feels like that's what creates the Ash like mythological character. Because oddly, in the first two movies, it's almost kind of a different Bruce Campbell.
Well, Army of Darkness is probably my favorite of them too. But I remember just kind of like you said, I saw Evil Dead was one of those movies you heard so much about. And I kind of got into it a little late, in all honesty. I got into it like in early college. So I finally sat down and watched Evil Dead. And then I was like, dude, this movie's fucking amazing. He made this with how much? And then I watched Evil Dead 2. I'm like, this is just a remake. It's called Evil Dead 2, but it's really just a remake. And it's really fucking silly. And then like where the first one was trying to be earnest. But then like, I don't know. In time, I kind of found myself appreciating Evil Dead 2 a lot more. And but anyway, I'm getting off. I'm derailed myself there. I appreciate that the remake was trying to make more of just like an updated version of Evil Dead 1, because even in that, Ash is not Ash as we think of him.
Yeah,
as so. Even Evil Dead, so I appreciate they're doing like, no, we're making a down and dirty, like non-funny, non-chuckle oriented version of Evil Dead for this. I'm like, that's kind of cool, and the violence was pretty heavy, and they didn't hold back on that. But then like most of the characters are just so fucking dumb. Like who's like the girl like at some point kills the dog, and he's like, whoa, I guess you just do that when you're having withdrawals, you know? So it's just kind of like, so it's just stupid shit like that, you know? And then like, he's like, I think there's a chance we could save her. Like, bro, what the fuck are you talking, you know? So, but
Well, I think that's what lost me on there was the characters were so dumb. That was my biggest thing. That like it wasn't the gore and the horror was decent enough, but the characters to me I feel like it sounds weird because there's some people out there be like, well, characters don't matter in a horror movie. I'm like, kind of get behind at least somebody. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
or I mean that somebody could also be once again Jason or Freddy. I can get behind those guys. You know what I mean? I'd vote for them for president if they ran almost. But you know, it's one of those things that if there's nobody to get behind, I don't care who it is, monster or man, you know, you kind of go, yeah. It's just death. Death without like reasoning sometimes seems kind of like there's something missing.
I think there is a level of like you wanting at least one or two people you like to kind of make it out of there. So, I mean, the new one I'm curious about. I'll check it out. It's already on, I think, one of the streaming services, so it's there. So I'll probably check it out. But yeah, as far as like, I was thinking. I mean, we don't have to do it here. We can probably talk about it off air. But I was thinking maybe this for October, since we haven't done very many Halloween stuff. If we want to do like, unless something big is coming out that week, we can mostly try to do like something horror oriented throughout the month. Maybe I shouldn't say this in the middle of the show, but we're on this topic of like we've kind of opened up with haunted houses. By the time this comes out, it's probably going to be on like beginning of October. So I might as I don't know.
Yeah, it's always funny because it's like I've always kind of like this is the thing about horror movies was I don't get to watch them as often as I used to, but every single time I watch one, I realize right off the bat, like, man, there's a reason why I love this genre so much and why there's so many cool movies and something like that. It's always like when people always want to do them around October. Like I remember even like Wes of via VHS, like, why don't you save some of those ideas for October? I'm like, what's the difference? I can watch a horror movie any day of the week. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those ones. But I think like what makes them even better is when you get somebody to technically watch them with and or talk about them afterwards, because that's almost like the magic of horror movies is like it's literally, in my opinion, I think the best group kind of movie than any other genre. Like, you know, like something special about whether that's either you watch it together and or you at least discuss it later. I think something about horror movies is great for that.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw one a little bit ago that was it was a straight to streaming one, which I honestly think it could have gone to theaters. Did you see that? And it's a little on the artsier side, but I still liked it. Did you see that movie? No One Will Save You.
If it didn't go to theaters, I definitely didn't see it.
So over here it's on Disney Plus, but in the States it's on Hulu, and it's this movie where it's a home invasion movie, but with aliens, and you're immediately thinking, oh, Signs, but that's just kind of like the first. It's literally alien shit happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. There's not a big long build up for it. Like it, and the other thing that's interesting about the movie is there's like, other than people murmuring or just small like little bits of people maybe talking in the background for a second, there's only like one line of dialogue in the whole movie. Like it's almost a silent movie. Like in this movie, it does this interesting thing where it's kind of like, I'm going to say bits of movies that I'm not like, I don't dislike these movies, but I'm not crazy about them. But at the same time, I think together they make something interesting. It's a little bit of Signs. It's a little bit of Quiet Place. It's a little bit of Home Alone. It's a little bit of like Close Encounters, and then there's another one in there. If I say it, it's going to give away too much. But
like what, Attack the Block?
Not Attack the Block. Nothing recent. It's one of these movies where basically this girl is shunned from her town. Like she's out somewhere like in a rural area, and she has this big house to herself. Through context clues, we're able to pick parts together that a friend of hers is dead, that she's sad, and her mom died recently, and she just basically has a big bit of property to herself, and she's kind of like a little kind of like sheltered not hipster girl, but she wears vintage clothing, probably because only person she really hung around with was her mom, because the rest of the town shunned her for reasons we don't know till the end. And so she's basically home alone, and she's basically aliens start to come in and invade, and and the thing is, I appreciate it is it's not a fucking jump scare fest. It's really tense. It keeps you on your toes. You're waiting for this to happen. You're waiting for that to happen, and it does kind of like startle you. But there is no like that. There's no fucking jump scare. But it's and like the things they do with the aliens, because some of the aliens look like your basic. I'm not spoiling nothing because you see the alien within like the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
They look kind of like your standard, like skinny gray men with big heads and black eyes, but they kind of do interesting things. Like the way they move, they almost gonna have like the stop motion kind of movement. Like for a minute, I thought it was stop motion, but it was just the way they move. Or like they have different expansions or versions of them. So it's interesting once you see what they do with it.
Well, that sounds pretty interesting right there. It just seems like nice, subtle horror, kind of sci-fi. What was that one called again?
No One Will Save You. And like the first...
No One Will Save You. And it's on Hulu. Like, I don't have Hulu at the moment. I kind of had to do that thing every once in a while where you're like, I have so many of these streaming things and I watch none of them. Well, let me trim some of these down.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And like I said, like it's like the first 20 minutes of the movie happens and you're like, oh, so this is going to be the movie. And then it stops for a minute, takes a break. Like, oh, this isn't the rest of the movie. And then it kind of like something else happens. And you're like, oh, more of this is expanding in a way which I didn't expect it to. So I really liked it. So, I think that's a good horror flick. But,
Huh, interesting. Yeah. I'm always kind of interested. It's like, you see the trailers for certain horror movies. And I will always kind of say that horror movies have the worst trailers out of any, like, type of movie. Like, it's like I always say, just because a horror trailer looks terrible and god awful, it might be a fine movie. Like I feel trailers never make horror movies look, especially I will say in the last 20 years, they generally don't really make horror movies look watchable at all. And then sometimes you watch them, oh, that was actually pretty good. I mean, maybe it's not, but so I always kind of, like I've seen that stupid Exorcist, like the beginning one, like way too many times in theaters, and then it's like, oh, here's the walkthrough ride at Universal Studios. And like, oh, that's all the stuff I see in the trailer. Interesting.
And it's exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like, I don't know. It's like, see, I look at that one, I go, it's the CG kind of ruins, I think, some of those ones. It's like, that's what made the original Exorcist so good, is it's all real practical effects. Once you put like some CG makeup all over the characters and so on, and have new and stupid things that like no human could technically do, to me, it doesn't look scary. It just looks like, that looks like CG. That's all it looks like to me. Like I literally see the CG dummy.
That was actually, even though the aliens are CG, there's actually a part where an alien starts doing like the Exorcist crab walk at her backwards. I'm like, oh, the fuck, So like seeing an alien do it, that's like, oh, that's actually a little creepier than seeing a little girl do it. I don't know why suddenly that's creepier, but
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's just some of those interesting ones. Sounds weird.
I saw that trailer for the Exorcist movie and I was like, I don't know. It's like I feel like Exorcist is kind of like, I'm not saying you can never make a good exorcism movie ever again, but I feel like Exorcist is kind of like Jaws. Like after Jaws, sure, you can make probably a good shark movie again, but is it really going to be as good as Jaws? Have any of them been as good since Jaws? Not like Jaws inspired movies. I mean, literally shark movies.
Yeah, well, because like the only one that I'm not a shark movie expert, but the only one that really always stood out to me being like maybe not Jaws caliber, but still pretty darn good is Deep Blue Sea.
I don't even think. I just think that one's still so. I mean, it's been so long since I've seen it. But I guess that one's just so like late 90s, early 2000s, kind of like, I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen that flick, but I remember, I guess maybe because, I guess that's also that point of like, okay, we go to the sharks are smarter now. Okay, sharks are smarter. All right, cool. Where do we go from here? Well, next thing you go from here is Sharktopus or Sharknado. So that's where it's like, this is the cutoff. We don't go beyond this.
Well, I think what I like about Deep Blue Sea is Deep Blue Sea has a very Resident Evil feel to it, like almost that kind of Resident Evil Jurassic Park, because oddly Jurassic Park has a very Resident Evil feel as well, too, in a weird way. And I think that's what I liked about Deep Blue Sea so much, and kind of like, I rewatched it again like 7 years ago or 6 years ago or something like that, and I was like, wow, that's actually a really good movie. Like, I was pretty darn impressed with that one there. Because to me, that one doesn't have too much, like, extremeness. Because that's the thing, is like the shark movies in the last like 15 years or so have gone almost too extreme. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like you almost need to pump the brakes a bit. It's like there was that Meg 2 movie coming out. I'm like, maybe I should see this. Got Jason Statham, man. I like Statham. So I watched Meg 1 because I'm like, well, I'm not going to go see the sequel, but I'll see the first one. And that movie starts off good. Like the first half an hour, I was really into it. I liked the kind of like the science that they had going behind it and so on like that. And then it just kind of became kind of goofy. And the next hour and a half or whatever, I was just like, The beginning was good. It was good before the shark showed up.
Well, I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I just like, how do I put it? That made me sound like a fucking movie snob here. But like, I feel like if you could sell the movie, I'm like, it's a big fucking shark and it's CG. I think that's something you could probably sell someone on in like the early to mid 2000s. Now I feel like that kind of shit's like a dime a dozen. Like it's kind of hard to wow someone with special effects and just like it's a shark, but it's big. I don't know. Yeah. It's hard. And I just kind of like, maybe it can be really good. Maybe the thing is the shark. I haven't seen Meg 2, but I've seen the trailer to it.
Yeah,
and it looks like they're like slowly leaning into like it's so crazy and wacky, isn't it kind of funny? Wink, like, you know, Fast and the Furious, or like if you guys keep pushing this, it's going to go into that Sharknado level shit, and I'm not not even going to step up. If that's where this train's going, I'm not getting on. So like that's kind of
where it's getting like that. Especially weird.
The new one's like 2.5 hours or some shit. The new one's 2.5 hours.
Is that how long? Well, that makes sense, though, because every movie this year pretty much is 2.5 hours. It's like so rare to find a movie that's under that 2-hour mark anymore. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case. Speaking of Statham, though, did you see Expendables 4?
No, I you know what? Here's the thing. I like Expendables 1. I thought Expendables 2 was pretty fun. I was kind of meh on Expendables 3, but Expendables 4, it just didn't. I'll be honest, just didn't look that good. But it looks like you're kind of like, who can we get? You know? So plus I also heard not spoilers. I'll say I heard someone just say out of nowhere of who dies 30 minutes in. I'm like, well, fuck that. So
yeah, well, they don't technically die, but they just go and take the world's longest coffee break and come back later.
Oh, well, okay. You know, could have been there for the rest of the movie, but all right.
Yeah, it just doesn't hurt help that it's somebody of major importance. But well, it's weird because I watched Expendables 1, 2, and 3 right beforehand. Again, I have the director's cut of 1, which does add a little bit more to that. And it was kind of funny thing though. I was watching Expendables 3 again. I was like, this one actually might be my favorite one. Granted, it is missing the violence. That's the biggest issue of Expendables 3 is you just don't have the good violence right there. And then you do have the kid characters, but they don't take up as much space as I think you think about the first time you watch it. I think what really makes Expendables 3 is it's got Mel Gibson in it, though. So now you got a legitimate super actor in there to carry so much of that other stuff. And, like, his scenes are just, amazing. And then the action, even though it doesn't have violence, it's like there is still really good action in there. It's almost like you have to make up for that because you can't just sell good gore. You have to now have actually even more different kinds of action. I mean, great, I still like all 3 of the original ones. They're still all fun, a lot of cool characters and so on. But going into 4, it's one of those ones, like, this is the only kind of thing I kind of noticed in there is it's still decent. I'm not going to say it's definitely the weak one of them all. The problem with it, though, is that it's really just a Jason Statham movie. Like, they just give all the action parts to Jason. And they're like, you know what, we'll just make it easier. Like, literally everybody else, like, they shoot the guns like 2 or 3 times, it feels like, and then they just like get captured in a jail, and then they're waiting for Jason Statham to come, and he takes like all the action practically. And don't get me wrong, I love Jason Statham, but the whole point of this movie is it's not a solo movie; it's a group ensemble. And yeah, even like Tony Jaa, once again, I'm like, this is going to be it. Finally, America's going to understand how great Tony Jaa is. They're going to give him a good role, and one, he doesn't appear till like, an hour into the movie, it felt like. And then when he's there, he's like, I don't fight. I gave that life up. And like, no, you fight. You never gave that life up. You're on screen, damn it. You need to show off. And then he probably gets 2 action scenes, and that's about all that he's really used for. They're good, don't get me wrong, but they're not. He should have been there the whole time. If it was Jason Statham and Tony Jaa, and that was the characters they focused on, I would have been like, you know what, I'm fine with that.
Well, like Expendables 1, it was one of those things. When we first saw it, like I remember we were both pretty amped for it. And it was also something to the effect of like, okay, I liked it, but really it was Stallone and Statham, and everyone else just got a minute. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jet Li had a few more minutes than like Terry Crews or Dolph Lundgren, but really
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like it was just kind of like their movie, and there was like, okay, we have this cool action scene at the beginning. Then we're like, okay, this lady wants to hire us. Let's go there. Oh, fuck this. Let's get out of here. And like Mickey Rourke's like, yeah, I could have helped someone once, but I didn't. And she jumped off a bridge. It is what it is, though. Like, maybe we should go back. Yeah, okay, we'll go back. We'll all go back. Okay, cool. And they all go back. And then everyone kind of gets an action scene. Like, I feel like we could have got this a little quicker. I still like that movie, but it's like, yeah, I know what it is. The second one amps up the cheese, amps up the self-awareness. A lot of people don't like that. That didn't bother me, but it kind of also amped up the action, and it was aware, and everybody got more of a moment. Where the third one was, I think the second one utilized the rest of the cast a lot more. The
second one's definitely the most balanced of them all. Like that one's as far as a straight up action movie, everything's pretty much there.
Yeah. The third one, the reason I didn't really care for that one so much, and it's not even like I hated it, it just felt so kind of like, it felt like it was shuffled around between like 3 or 4 people. Like, okay, so they're going, I guess Terry Crews, I don't know, he was written out because he scheduling conflicts, or just wanted out of it, or I don't know what it was. So it's kind of like,
he gets shot at the beginning.
Yeah, so okay, so he's not even dead, but like we're gonna go get Wesley Snipes out of this prison like train. It's gonna be this big badass thing. We're gonna see why Wesley Snipes is so cool. Like, awesome, Wesley Snipes in the team. Just like, well, your other black guy just got shot, so I guess that puts me here, and it's just like, all right, I guess, because that also happened in the second one. Like, they got their one Asian dude off the team, and then like an Asian lady comes in, so it's like, hey, I'm sorry,
there's only one slot.
Yeah,
there could be only one on the team.
Yeah, exactly. So. And
well, it's funny because in the fourth one, that's literally the same thing I thought too. I'm like, is it the Expendables can only have one black guy on the team, because now we don't have Terry Crews, but we got 50 Cent now. It came in to fill the void, and nobody knows what happened to Wesley Snipes. So there we go. There was an opening.
Yeah, and then okay, and then like something happens where it's just like, for whatever reason, Stallone has to go off alone, and everyone's like, hey man, we think you should bring us back. Like, no, I got to get the young blood. I got to get World Dogs. It's just like, we just met Wesley Snipes, and he's coming along like, hey man, I've been here the whole time. Why are you leaving me out? Like, Wesley Snipes, you just fucking got here. This should be Terry Crews in this, whatever. Okay, don't get me wrong, you're cool, but it just felt so like, we're gonna build this guy up, and then there's the bench. And then we introduce all these young people, and yeah, there's like, I mean, Ronda Rousey is like, at the time, I guess everyone else is either like, okay, there's Scott Eastwood, but they're hoping to take him up, make him like, they're hoping he probably become more, and probably writing off the Eastwood name, but really he didn't really have a lot to his name. A lot of those people didn't have like a lot of big action movies to their name. Like, these are the up and coming guys, and then Ronda Rousey is like the only one who's like, I mean, she was a fighter, but at the same time, it's not like, so it's like, okay, so it's all about. It's about the old blood coming in for the new blood, but the new blood also isn't really, who the fuck are these guys, So that's kind of like my thing with number 3. And yeah, Antonio Banderas was cool, but he was just kind of like there for a minute. Like, it's just one of those things. Here's these characters, we just use them for a minute, and we just off with them. Now, I haven't seen it since theaters. We got to watch it again, but
I think it's one of those ones. If you give it another go, because once you kind of just go, okay, I accept that the kid characters are there, something like that. They're only there for really like a moment, and then it's back to like the Expendables and all that stuff and so on. And I was like, as far as just, it's got a lot of great action in that movie, and then plus the Mel Gibson aspect. Like, I can't, like, that's the one thing that was like, Mel Gibson just, remember, Jean-Claude Van Damme is cool as a villain in 2, but we all know right off the bat that Jean-Claude Van Damme is not the caliber of actor that Mel Gibson is.
Oh, I liked how they were able to utilize, like, I don't remember the thing. I just like they made Jean-Claude Van Damme like intimidating. I'm not saying he couldn't be an intimidating guy, but at that point people like dismissed him away. I'm like, no, he's an over the top 80s villain, but he's doing a good job of it. And I remember Mel Gibson being good in that movie. And I remember like, the idea of Rambo versus Mad Max, that's cool. I just kind of like, and I remember there being some cool action scenes. I just don't remember it being as like, I also remember just these really like asylum budget moments where they would be like, there's a helicopter landing, like a PS3 helicopter landing off in the background, and they have these really stiff like models. The characters kind of like just wobbling along in the background. Like really, guys, And there's a part where like Stallone is being lifted up like from like a helicopter, and there's no momentum. It's just like just straight up, like Mario crawling a ladder.
Yeah, no. It is kind of like that. But when you do jump into 4, I will say 4 started off extremely good. Like the first 25 minutes with 4 was like, man, this is really good. The action's badass. They're like, you remember how 3 didn't have enough violence in it? Well, now we've doubled down on it. Like they doubled down on the rated R-ness right at the beginning. There's gore, there's violence. There's a part where Stallone needs to go get his ring back from a guy in the bar that he lost in like a bet or something the night before. So him and Statham go to fight him, and the ring's just sitting on a giant, like humongous cock behind the bar. It's like they're just like, you're getting your rated R fix now. Like don't fucking bitch about 3 again.
It's on a dude's cock. Like actually showed it on a dude's cock. Come get it.
Well, it's like a statue behind it. Oh. It's not like that. But yeah. So it's like it started off great and everything like that. And then it's like the mission goes on and so on. Like it's weird because it's literally a 2-act movie, which that's almost something you never see. Is you see 3-act movies, you see 4-act movies, but 2-act movies are really rare. It literally has that beginning action scene, that's Act 1, and then when they go like, oh, we gotta do our second action thing, that's literally all it is. They land on this boat, and the thing takes place on the boat the entire time past that. Like never goes anywhere else. You know what I mean? And it's just like I kept thinking like, well, this is gonna be like, this is Act 2, and then we'll get off the boat and there'll be some third. Nope. They're just there the whole time. And in this process, the weird thing is that a lot of the characters that they sort of have, they do these things that almost feel like they had to do like a cop-out decision to make the character work this way. But like you could tell it was written for somebody else. Like they literally have an Antonio Banderas guy there, and they just do a thing where it's like, oh, well, we couldn't get Antonio. We wrote the thing for him. He didn't show up. How can we fix this real quick? It's Antonio Banderas' character's son, and he's the exact same guy.
Oh, okay.
So they do one of those things where it's like that. But the weirdest thing is like these characters, like he appears in there, and then when the major character dies, like the guy takes it like very like impactful and everything like that, and he's like stopped talking and he's silent through like there. It's like, dude, you knew the dude for like 20 minutes like before this mission, like. It's like I mean, like I get it. Like it probably was written for Antonio Banderas, and that would have made 100% sense for that character. But now that you don't have that character, it seems really weird that is. And then it's even like 50 Cent in there. I feel like that was written for Terry Crews, and then when Terry Crews didn't come back, they're just like, we can shoehorn 50 Cent in here and make it kind of work, because 50 Cent would make comments that he'd be like, oh, you know what, Dolph, you've just messed up before, and so on like that. I'm like, how does he know? He wasn't on the Expendables 1 mission. You know what I mean? Like, where's he getting this information from? One, he just started he started yesterday.
Oh, when Terry Crews is on his way out the door, he just handed me some cue cards. Like, shit that happened in the last 4 missions. Like, oh, good. Thanks. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's what I started like. And it's not that 50 Cent was bad, but, like, he was good. And I thought that was cool that he was in there, but it just felt like, yeah, he was kind of shoehorned in there. And the downfall of 50 Cent, like, his only action piece he really gets is he gets to shoot, like, a 50 caliber out of the back of a Jeep in the beginning, which is neat, and that's in the cool action that they got. And then after that, he's part of the team that kind of all gets locked up in jail for a while and waiting for Jason Statham to come.
Oi. Yeah, it just comes in a motorcycle, like doing a backwards wheel, like, oi, mates. Like, okay, hey, man, how's it going? And I like Jason Statham. I just kind of like, I don't know. I just heard those few things about it, and I'm just like, I'll wait for streaming. I'm not dying to see it, which you tell Ryan that back in 2010 when the first Expendables was coming out. Like, what? But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I can wait. I can wait. I feel like I feel like I think the best two for me is just the first two, and after that, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, even in the first one, even in the second one, though, it's obvious that the not Chris Hemsworth,
Liam.
Hemsworth, the other Hemsworth, yeah,
Yeah, Liam.
Liam. It's obvious that's supposed to be Mickey Rourke or whatever, because like originally the cast was he was supposed to be Mickey Rourke comes back and he dies at the beginning, and that gives them that like emotional beat for them to like all rally behind. But it's just this kid we just met like 20 minutes ago, and then he dies. And then even the third one, like I said, like it just seems kind of like the cast members passing on their way in. Like, oh, you're the new Asian guy? Yeah, I'm the new Asian. Oh, the Asian girl, actually. Oh, okay, all right. Here's what you want to know about him. All right, cool, awesome. All right, see you in the third act.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like sort of how it is. And even Megan Fox is in the fourth one too. And I know she's kind of changed her career around. She has been in a lot of action stuff in the last handful of years when she kind of got blacklisted and so on like that. And I thought that was actually kind of cool. I'm like, cool, put that in her. She probably fires like 3 rounds in the entire movie, it seems like, and just seems to kind of get in the way of other things and so on. I was like, well, I guess she was kind of slightly underused there.
I'm guessing they probably.
She's got a weird relationship with Jason Statham, because I remember when I first saw that first trailer, I'm like, oh, maybe that's his daughter coming home, and then it's like, oh, no, that's not his daughter, but it sure feels like it, which makes it feel really weird in this scene.
They're fuck fighting. Okay, cool.
I guess some parents and daughters do that. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, and there it goes. Yeah, I guess the thing about this is once again, it's not a bad movie. It's just not great. It's probably like a 2 out of 4, which is kind of low on the Expendables kind of roster. You don't want it to be that kind of low. And the thing too is like it probably was like one of the main movies that I was most excited about for the year. I think that's what kind of like hits me harder. It's like, man, come on. It's like I know there's not going to be an Expendables 5, so it's not like there's a redemption part from this. It's not like this could be that one little skip in the road. And then in 5, everybody comes back. It's Arnold, it's Stallone, it's Jet Li. We got all the people you wish you would have had there, like Carl Weathers and Hulk Hogan. They're all coming. And it's like it's like. This kind of was the last hurrah. I think that's almost like the thing about like, and it's just one of those ones like.
The last hurrah is not working for a lot of franchises lately. Like the last hurrah it wasn't the worst movie all time, but the last hurrah did not go well for like Indy 5.
No, God, that was another one too where it's just like, it's like. That's just, I hate to sort of say, it's another Disney ploy to capture money out of people that will show up no matter what, us included, and not that Harrison Ford was bad, but it's just like everything else in it was,
It was just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to see it just because it was indie, and then I was watching it, and I'm liking this. Okay, yeah, the CG on the face is a little noticeable when he falls over or something, but for the most part, I'm digging this. Even the World War II stuff at the beginning, and then even the stuff when he's like in because when he's like having the chase through the hell no, we won't go protest and parade and all that, and that was interesting. And yeah, I know this isn't all gonna. I know it's over the top, but I'm enjoying this, And then we start to actually do the real Indiana Jones adventure, where they start doing the Indiana Jones puzzle solving shit. And like I really like Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I think she's a good actress.
I hate that actress so much. That one was like,
that movie she's not good, but in other stuff she's really good. She's good in other stuff, and she's a really good writer. Is she the
fembot lady in the Han Solo movie?
That's not the best example, but
yeah. God, that's another one where she's just terrible in.
She's she was one of the punch-up writers for, well, not the writer, but she's a punch-up writer for, I think, the last Bond film. And then she also she's in a show called Fleabag, which is really good and pretty funny. She's in a lot of stuff. Anyway, I think she's good. That movie is not her best example. Mainly, I think it was the way she's written. Like the way they wrote her was just to be kind of like girl boss, talk down to Indy the whole time, and it is what it is, and just kind of like. And at some point, he would need to have that kind of moment, like I know what I'm talking about, but he never really does. Just kind of like, no. So it's just like, okay, whatever. And then like, I mean, I don't think it was as bad as people were making it out to be, but it wasn't really that great either. I don't know. That movie was just like not that. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it says something when you're watching an Indiana Jones movie, and then like you're in the third act, you're just kind of waiting for it to be over. Like that's a bad sign right there, you know?
Yeah, that's how I kind of felt too. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like those ones like that where it's just such a bummer because you're like, you want more of all this kind of stuff, and I don't mind the guys being old. I think that's it. I think the downfall is you just get the wrong creators involved in there, and I hate to sort of say it, but like, there's certain things. It's like if you don't have the original guys at least in there somehow, some way, like. If you had Steven and George, I think it would change a lot more of that. But when you don't have Steven and George working on their own material, like I almost kind of say like you're just making expensive fan fiction. Let's be honest, it's not real anymore. It's just expensive fan fiction.
Well, it's also something to the effect of I think something like Indiana Jones is like, let's not sugarcoat it. It is kind of like something like our generation back is probably the one's going to give a shit about. I can't imagine like the next generation giving a fuck about an old guy who digs up shit and like shoots ethnic people. I don't see that being a thing that they're really fucking into. So at the same time, like I'm just being kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I love Indiana Jones, but at the same time, it's just like that pulpy adventure of the world kind of thing, like Doc Savage type thing. I honestly think that's just one of those genres that people don't care about anymore.
Yeah, no, it is kind of always sad because that's like all the stuff that I like. I know it's all the stuff that I like, the stuff that's all kind of disappearing. It's like it goes to show like, is this what it means to get old? Is that the things that you like just go away and nobody seems to care? Yeah, probably that is.
Like my comics more than DC now.
Yeah, that literally, I also kind of get that feeling. But I will say to kind of maybe wrap the podcast up. Speaking of I did see a badass movie that got like literally no trailers for it whatsoever. Just kind of came out of nowhere, but at least was in cinemas still. But there was the new Nicolas Cage movie, the Retirement Plan. Awesome. Had Nicolas Cage in it. It was action packed. It was funny. Had Ron Perlman in it, who like was stealing scenes left and right as well too. And it ran at maybe an hour and 40 minutes, so it was like the right length. You never felt like you were bored. And it was just a great one where it was a story about like this lady and her husband and her kid somehow, some way got into this issue of like the mob. And you don't know exactly what it is at first. You just know that like, oh, shit's going down. And she realizes like, well, we got to send this flash drive that they don't really explain, kind of like a Pulp Fiction thing. We got to send this flash drive, with my daughter. Let's send him down to my dad, who I haven't seen in like 20 years. And he's down in like,
somewhere. Haley's in it. Damn.
Yes, and he's in it too, and he plays an amazing villain. I was going to get to him, and so he's down like in I was going to say like not Costa Rica, but more like in the East Coast side, whatever. So somewhere in one of the islands down there, Caribbean section. So they send the daughter down there to go hang out with like the dad. They're just not too sure like all this, but they don't realize that dad actually was an old CIA agent, special forces, like Solid Snake dude. And he's just been kind of sitting down here for his retirement and whatnot. And as he gets down there and the daughter's in danger, he just starts killing people left and right. It's just like his old training comes back too. And, even though he's been this old drunk, he's still like, action packed and, people are dying left and right, good action. And, he's protecting his new granddaughter that he just met.
Nick Cage seems to be kind of having like, I'm not going to say a full on renaissance, but like a whole like return, like, but he seems to be having like these, it seems like for the last couple years, he puts out like one or two of like weird kind of experimental movies. I'm not sure if this one would be experimental or not, but like these movies that no way he would have done in the 90s. But now like people are like, oh, this is why fucking Nick Cage is still awesome. It's like something kind of like the Unbreakable, the crazy long title, the Unbreakable Weight of Immense Talent or something like that, or Pig, or Mandy, or just these weird movies that like just kind of come out, So I haven't heard about this one either until you just brought.
Yeah, no, I literally the only reason I knew about it because I looked at the Regal Pass. I'm like, what the hell is this new movie? They're like, oh, it's got Nick Cage. Oh, this looks interesting. And we just went and saw it, and it was great. It was one of those ones where it's just like, dude, this is a fantastic film right here. Probably almost might be the best movie I've seen this year. Like, I liked it a lot. You know, just everything about it was just solid all the way around. And it just goes like, see, this is where I wish there was more fun things like that. Like good action, you know, good comedy, like right and to the point, you know, doesn't feel like anything was kind of missing too much. The whole thing about it, you know, still old guys kicking ass, one of my favorite genres, you know.
That seems to be also coming back in a certain way. Like maybe not exactly the old guy kicking ass, I mean, to an extent, but kind of like the guy coming out of retirement to slap people around. Basically, I mean, John Wick probably Taken, then John Wick made it popular again. And then you have things like all the things from the producer of John Wick, like every single thing those guys make. It's always a guy like, hey, don't fuck with them. Like, what? Just don't fuck with them. Well, I'm going to fuck with them. I don't have to fuck with them. I'm like, oh, well, you shouldn't have fucked with them. And here we are.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's sort of what the Expendables is, except for those like the guys these are the guys that never retired.
Yeah. Well, it's also like, it's like we know what they do. It's like, it's not like, it's like the beginning of like, it's like, whatchamacallit, like nobody is like Bob Odenkirk just taking shit from every aspect of life for the first like 20 minutes of the movie until he's like, fuck it, and just kind of like goes out. You know? It's Bob Odenkirk. It's not Jason Statham. It's not Stallone. Like if you saw this movie where Stallone,
I imagine Jason Statham just taking shit from people in like the first 20 minutes of a movie.
Well, just imagine like nobody with Jason Statham. Like, of course he's gonna fucking flip. Like, all right, mate, you gone and twisted my knickers too much. You know, like some shit like that's of course gonna fucking go down. Bob Odenkirk, I mean, we've seen him get mad and shit, but we know he has range. But the way he's playing it, he looks like an everyday guy. And just like the thing that's also interesting to me with that movie is just like even the wife is like, she knows he's ex-CIA or whatever, and she's still kind of like, gotta get a fucking nutsack. God damn it, Bob. You know, like, she's like, you're right. You knocked the shit out of some people. You're right. I love you again. I still like that movie though.
Yeah, that movie was so good. That was like one of my favorite movies of whatever year that came out, 2 years ago.
Too. Somewhere in my top 4 of the year it came out.
Yeah, and I'll say it's that this retirement plan one kind of fits in like that category of movies in about that sort of way. Yeah, no, I really dug it. I was like, you know what, here it is, and it's sad because it's a movie that just who knows how well it will do. Maybe as time goes on, but it's like, yeah, it had no trailers. It's like you're gonna show me that damn Exorcist trailer like 15 times, but you can't show me this movie at least once.
Yeah, well, they probably had the money for it, but apparently, I guess apparently because Nick Cage, the movie where the long title movie with the Mandalorian, that movie addressed his like lavish spending and like bad habits and all that kind of stuff, and worked that into the story, and apparently, yeah, he's been doing a lot of weird, oddball movies to kind of like pay shit off. But it's actually, I think it's kind of, at least movie-wise, I think it's kind of working out in his favor because I think Pig is like one of my favorite movies he's done, as well as like that movie he did last year. I don't know if as his movies go, yeah, it's probably one of my favorites. So, you know, I think that he has like, I mean, I'm not saying like I wish he didn't have to get into debt in order to do this, but at the same time, I'm liking the movies he's putting out, you know?
Well, I think that's the thing is it's actually kind of good for actors to get kind of like that humbled period, because then I think they can get back and start doing some artsy things. Like the way that I look at it is I think that really like I kind of would hope that someone like Will Smith would do the same thing, because because he got humbled, this should allow him to start doing some artsy things. And the thing about Will Smith is he never was really allowed to ever do that. He was just instantly blockbuster star from the start. He never got to like work that way up. So I think the fact that now if he started making things kind of like how Nicolas Cage did, where you're like, oh shit, here's this weird, bizarre horror action movie that I would have never expected to see Will Smith in. I hope he takes advantage of that right now and starts doing things like that, because I think that could be really cool for Will Smith.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see Will Smith do stuff. I mean, I'm sure that he's working through some shit, and I don't want to speculate or whatever, you know. But at the same time, it's like
he's just like at the archery range. He's just got a picture of Chris Rock at the end. He just fires arrows continuously all day long. Like, oh, hey, Will, you're down here again. How many arrows is that on the ground? That's best I not ask. See you.
You can't even tell it's Chris Rock anymore. It's just like it's not even Chris Rock. It's like
Was that Chris Tucker on
there? Getting warmer. No, well, it's not. That's not even Chris Rock's thing. He was like, oh, Chris Rock. Did you see his stand-up special? Like, well, I know we're ending soon. But did you see his stand-up special where he talked about that?
No, I never did.
He did a stand-up special like a year after it happened, and he says like, so I know what you all want to hear about. No, and he's like, wow. So like, at some point he basically come out and just like, yo, fuck Will Smith. He says like, he's working through some shit. He's doing this. He's doing that. I understand he's working through some shit, but he smacked me because I'm small. You think he would have done that shit if it was Dwayne Johnson made that joke? So it's like I kind of like I don't really that was I mean year later or whatever, but 2 years later by now. But I'm not like I'm not one of those people who like totally wrote Will Smith off on anything he's ever done since then. But at the same time, though, I'm like, yeah, he kind of brought that upon himself of every night to like you picked the wrong time to do that, dude. Especially at night you were getting an Oscar, like oh, this is the thing I always wanted. Then they just like if you could have just bottled up just for a minute longer,
Yeah, as I said, I think that if he plays his cards right, I think for maybe not necessarily for him himself, but it could be a cool thing just for movie wise because it's sometimes like that thing like if you're always given like the top tier list of movies, of course you're going to stick to that. Why would you do something weird and artsy? But when you get to that point where you're like, oh shit, now I'm kind of I don't get those same choices anymore. Like I think that could actually be better for one, your acting. And two, for the real fans of Will Smith, like just be able to see some shit that like you would not normally get. It's kind of like Nicolas Cage. If Nicolas Cage was always just A-list actor forever, we wouldn't have got all these cool movies that we sort of got in the last like 10 years. That Nick Cage started doing some weird, bizarre stuff, and I think that almost adds even more to Nick Cage's like credit.
Well, I'll say this: it's like it does sound like some monkey paw shit. Like when you think about it, like a fortune teller says, yes, you will be able to like get an Oscar, your lifelong goal. But first, your wife will fuck your son's best friend. And then you will smack a comedian on stage for making a joke about your wife's lack of hair. And then the world will hate you. So it does sound like this weird, like fucking curse thing. But at the same time, though, I hope he bounces back because, I think he's just taking some time,
Yeah, exactly. As I said, whatever movie he has coming out next, I do look forward to see what it is because hopefully he'll choose something just really odd and interesting, and less blockbustery and more something special. But yeah, no, that's probably a good place to wrap it all up at. Other than all that fun stuff, go to oldmanalways.com for more comic books like Pizza Boys, old animations, podcasts, and all that good stuff. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.